In Hollywood, there is a very thin line between a visionary masterpiece and a financial catastrophe. Usually, that line is about $200 million wide. We have all seen the hits. We know the movies that practically print money. But today we are not talking about the winners. We are talking about the movies that did not just fail, they cratered. We are looking at the films that forced studio executives to update their resumes before the opening weekend credits even finished rolling. Here are the legendary bombs that lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Number 10. The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Hey, no, it's some misunderstanding. I'm here to accept Mr. Kratos off.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's all settled. $10 million.
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Starting our list at number 10 is a movie so synonymous with flop that its name is basically shorthand for what not to do. In the late 90s, Eddie Murphy was king. The Nutty Professor and Dr. Dolittle were massive hits. So, when he wanted to make a sci-fi action comedy set on the moon, Warner Brothers said, "Sure, here is $100 million. The movie sat on a shelf for 2 years after filming finished because the studio knew they had a disaster on their hands. When it finally limped into theaters in 2002, it grossed just $7 million. It failed because it suffered from a classic identity crisis. Was it a kids' movie, a gritty sci-fi, or a comedy? It wasn't funny enough to be a comedy, and it wasn't exciting enough to be an action flick. The CGI was dated before it even premiered, and Eddie Murphy, usually a ball of energy, looked like he was simply counting the minutes until his trailer was ready. It is a textbook case of star power failing to save a vacuum of a script. Number 9. Stealth.
You are pilots of the Navy. I expect nothing less than perfection.
Next up, we have Stealth. Imagine Top Gun, but instead of Tom Cruise, the main character is a sentient, evil AI airplane that listens to Linkin Park. With a budget of $135 million, the film barely managed $79 million worldwide. After marketing costs, Sony was looking at a loss of over $120 million. It failed because by 2005, audiences were already feeling CGI fatigue. The movie relied so heavily on digital dogfights that it felt more like watching a long video game cutscene than a motion picture. Furthermore, it was released in the middle of a massive summer crowded with hits like Wedding Crashers and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. People did not want futuristic planes with feelings, they wanted something grounded or something fun. Stealth provided neither. Number 8. 47 Ronin.
I'm looking for someone who was sold to you when he was a child.
47 Ronin is a fascinating disaster. It is based on one of the most sacred Japanese legends. So, naturally, Hollywood decided the best way to tell this story was to add giant CGI monsters and Keanu Reeves. The budget ballooned from $175 million to an estimated $225 million due to extensive reshoots. It grossed $151 million, resulting in a loss for Universal that exceeded $150 million. The movie tried to please everyone and ended up pleasing no one. It wasn't Japanese enough for international audiences who respected the original story, yet it was too weird and slow for American audiences expecting The Matrix with swords. It was a cultural hybrid that felt hollow. Even the marketing felt like a bait-and-switch, focusing heavily on a tattooed character who only appeared in the movie for 3 minutes. Number 7. The Lone Ranger.
If we ride together, we ride for justice.
Justice is what I seek, Kimosabe.
Disney thought they had a foolproof formula. They took the director of Pirates of the Caribbean, Gore Verbinski, the producer Jerry Bruckheimer, and the star Johnny Depp, and put them in a Western. But everything went wrong. The budget spiraled to $225 million because of Verbinski's insistence on building actual period-accurate trains. It ended up losing Disney nearly $190 million. It failed because the Western genre is notoriously difficult to sell to modern global audiences. Second, the movie was 2.5 hours long, and the tone shifted violently from slapstick comedy to grisly scenes of villains eating human hearts. It was an expensive, bloated mess that did not know if it wanted to be a kids' movie or a gritty reboot. Number 6. Titan AE. Don Bluth is an animation legend, known for The Land Before Time and Anastasia. But Titan AE was the iceberg that sank his ship and took Fox Animation Studios down with it. It cost $75 million to make, which was a massive sum in the year 2000, and it made only $36 million. The studio was shut down just days after the film's release. It failed because Titan AE was ahead of its time, but in the worst way possible. It was a PG-13 animated sci-fi epic. In 2000, parents thought animation was only for little kids, and teenagers thought animation was uncool. It had no target demographic. Even with a script co-written by Joss Whedon and a voice cast including Matt Damon, it simply could not find an audience. Number 5. Mars Needs Moms. If you want to see where the uncanny valley goes to die, look no further than Mars Needs Moms. This is statistically one of the biggest bombs in Disney history. It cost $150 million to produce and made just $39 million back. It failed because of performance capture. Robert Zemeckis' studio used technology that made the characters look almost human, but just off enough to be terrifying to children. The dead eyes of the characters, combined with a strangely dark plot about mothers being kidnapped and liquidated, made it a nightmare for parents to take their kids to. Number 4. Monster Trucks.
Something going on here. I don't even know how to begin to explain.
Take a look. He likes hiding in my truck.
Most movies on this list were made with high hopes. Monster Trucks, however, was a movie the studio gave up on before it even hit theaters. Paramount actually took a $115 million write-down on the film 4 months before it was even released. The movie cost $125 million and grossed only $64 million. Movie premise was based on a literal interpretation of monster trucks, as in, there are actual monsters living inside the trucks. This idea reportedly came from the 4-year-old son of a studio executive. It turns out, 4-year-olds might not be the best source for $100 million intellectual properties. It was a goofy direct-to-streaming idea with a blockbuster budget. Number 3. John Carter.
I'm afraid I bring sad tidings.
Your uncle's passing came as a shock to all of us.
John Carter is often called the king of the flops. It is a movie that is actually quite good, but it was destroyed by one of the worst marketing campaigns in history. The total cost, including production and marketing, was estimated at $350 million. It lost Disney about $200 million. It failed because of the source material, A Princess of Mars, originally inspired Star Wars and Avatar. But the movie came out after those hits. It looked like a ripoff of the very things it had inspired. To make matters worse, Disney dropped Of Mars from the title, leaving it as just John Carter. Nobody knew who John Carter was, the trailers were vague, and the budget was unsustainable. Number 2. Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas. Before Shrek took over the world, DreamWorks was still trying to find success with traditional 2D animation. Sinbad was the final nail in that coffin. It grossed $80 million on a $60 million budget. That sounds okay until you realize that after marketing and theater cuts, DreamWorks lost $125 million. Jeffrey Katzenberg famously said it nearly killed the studio. It was released the same year as Finding Nemo. You simply do not go up against Pixar in the early 2000s and expect to survive. Additionally, the movie leaned away from Sinbad's Arabic roots to try and appeal to Western audiences, but it ended up feeling generic. Audiences were moving toward 3D animation, and Sinbad felt like a relic of the past. Number 1. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
You felt it, didn't you? The power.
And finally, our number 1 spot. Guy Ritchie's King Arthur. Warner Brothers wanted this to be the start of a 6-film Knights of the Round Table cinematic universe, but they only got one. With a massive $175 million budget, it only brought in $148 million worldwide. The studio lost an estimated $175 million. It failed because of the Guy Ritchie style, Cockney dialogue, and fast cuts worked for Sherlock Holmes, but it felt completely bizarre in an epic fantasy setting. It was Game of Thrones meets Snatch, and audiences were not buying it. There was also massive King Arthur fatigue at the time, and the movie was released directly against Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It was a sword fight against a laser gun, and the sword lost. These movies prove that no matter how much money you throw at a screen, you cannot buy an audience's interest. Sometimes, a big idea is just an expensive mistake. So which of these flops is actually your secret favorite? I will admit it, I actually think John Carter is a solid movie. Let me know your guilty pleasure flop in the comments below. Do not forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you do not miss our next breakdown of Hollywood's biggest disasters. See you next time.